Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a little bit of tag time. I've got some leftover papers on the mat from the bird collage tags we did the other week. I will link to those below. And I thought I just wanted to do a little bit of springtime flower stamping. I was out for a walk the other day and saw some exquisite wood violets, wild violets, and yeah, I have got a stamp set with PaperArtsy with wild violets, and I just thought it's time to have them on the craft table as well. So these leftover papers have got beautiful designs on, but they're just a little bit too prominent for me at the moment. So I've got some gesso here. I'm watering it down, as you can see, and applying it to the tags, and then I'm just going to knock it back a little bit with some paper towel, and that's going to give me a nice softened version of that background paper, just with it subtly melting into the background. Plus it gives me a sort of slightly interesting artsy painterly texture to work onto, which I think is really nice. So you can see it's there, but it's not there. It's subtle, but it's also present. And yeah, you can do that sort of to your own taste. You might want a little bit more some days, a little bit less other days, and it's just creating a background. Gesso in its official form is used to prepare canvases for paint, and it's so that the canvas doesn't soak up huge amounts of paint. It can have the exact same effect with paper. It can give you a really good surface to work on. And yeah, I'm planning to use Distress Watercolor Pencils, as you can see, and then I also bought some cheap as chips watercolor paints from Action, which is a sort of, I mean, not quite a dollar store, but a cheapy store. I've no idea what to expect from those. As you can see, they're still in their box. They may or may not be brilliant, so I'm going to dry these and be back. These are now dry. They were curling up quite a lot as I was drying them, so I spritzed the back and dried from the other side, and that helped. But I then decided I would, in any case, glue them down to some additional card so that they've got just a bit more presence in the world. So that's just the little hole punch going through again. There we go, to recreate our tags. Yeah, these watercolor paints are metallic, and those who know me well will know I don't often go for metallics, but I'm confessing I was just looped in by the pretty colours. If these work okay for me, I've got a plan for these for Saturday. We'll see. Grand. So I now need to get some stamping into place, and yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with a very straightforward bit of violet onto each tag. Do I want the words? So each of these early botanical stamps comes with some little words as well as the Latin name for the flower. And I think actually I might be in the mood for that. I could stamp in black. Maybe I will stamp in black. That would be very unusual for me. No, it's not going to be black. It's going to be coffee, my good old dependable coffee. Because that will look like a vintage book illustration, but it's also a strong enough colour to come on here. I'm definitely stamping in a permanent or archival ink, because if I'm going to be watercolouring or applying colour over the top of this, that is going to move the inks if I don't have a permanent ink, and I'll lose the outline. Sometimes that can be a really effective little game, to have that outline soft and disappearing as you paint. We might do that another day with some other stamps. So yeah, I'm just gonna, as usual, vary the positioning. There is also on this stamp a little version, so a smaller sketch. I think we might have that in as well. Why not? It gives us lots to colour and paint with different things. So let's see where we want it. Coffee again. And I might just have that sort of coming up as a little additional plant somewhere in the corner here. There it is. Don't want to hit the wording. That one was almost a secondary stamping, almost disappeared, but it's fine. They were in such profusion, the violets I saw the other day. I did share a reel on Instagram, but I might try and share that one here is a short as well, so that there's a connecting video. You can see, there we go. And yeah, I'll zoom in a bit for the colouring so that you can see how that goes. There are a number of ways to deploy the colour when you're colouring with Distress Watercolor Pencils. You can, of course, apply colour direct to your image, like so, and then use a brush with dipped in water or a water brush to spread that colour out, which is one way to do it. And then when you've done that, if you want a bit more colour, you can apply some more colour. And because that's now hitting a wet surface, you'll get more pigment down straight away. It will start to move around. This is Villainous Potion, which is the very darkest of the purples. This is Wilted Violet, which is a much brighter, more vivid colour. But that doesn't tend to be the way that I do it more. I more often will create myself a palette of paint here on the craft mat. So my silicone craft mat, or you can use any kind of palette really, palette paper, a china palette. And what I do is dip the watercolor pencil in water, which is what's happening there off camera, and then just work it so that that pigment softens and loosens, and then you've got your paint on the palette to work with. I usually have a piece of paper towel nearby because that nib is now going to be quite messy. It's going to give off colour. You have to get these going. As with any watercolour paint, when you have watercolour paint in pans and it's dried solid, you have to start by giving it a good spritz of water and then a good mix up. And in exactly the same way, you need to get these crayons going before they'll play with you. And then I can just pick up that paint and apply it directly. And partly that's because I'm used to working with watercolour paints where I've got the paint mixed up, and then I can just kind of get it onto my image. But it's also, I find it the way that gives me the most pigment immediately. I might go back in later and add direct colour. I'm thinking I want a bit of blue going on, so this is Blueprint Sketch going down onto the mat. And I think I've just remembered that I've got an alarm set to go off. So what I might do is just make sure that's switched off before I go any further. So if you're doing the version where you're applying pencil directly to the image, it can also be really nice to get the pencil wet first. And then again, you're applying more colour directly to there. And if you want to mix, you can absolutely then go in with another colour and apply that to here. That's actually giving me a really nice specificity of where the colour is arriving. So I'm going to do something similar over here. So it's about, as it always is with water reactive pigments, it's about that combination, that interaction between water and pigment that gives you the ability to play and paint and create, keeping things free and fluid. I love how that blue is interacting with those. It's giving me, they were so vivid, the flowers in the morning sunlight the other morning. So I think that blue is quite a nice element to have there. So you can see, you can really work in whatever way you prefer, working with the fluid medium directly from the mat, or working to apply a little bit of colour to a specific petal, to a specific point, mixing on the image, as it were, or mixing in advance on the mat. All of these things are possible with the watercolour pencils. And as you can see, I've ended up doing a mixture of all of them, because that's what's available on the mat to me and on the pencil. And yeah, it's playing with colour. I'm going to add a little bit of the deep Villainous Potion to the centre of each flower again, just to create that illusion of depth, so the darker colours shadow and draw the eye inwards. But as you can see, I am keeping things quite loose. I can see the image underneath, and I'm enjoying that. And I'm going to let these dry, these flower heads, before I come in with some of the metallic paint over the top, just to see what that gets me. Because if I don't like it, I can always go again, stamp some more flowers over some more background paper. What have I got to lose, really? So these flower heads want to dry, and in the meantime I can be painting some greens onto them. Did you really mean to go up there? There does seem to be something up there. Grand. So that's that. And again, if you've got too much going on, you can always, while that paint is still wet, you can knock back with some paper towel, and that will get you back to a clarity with the image. With most watercolour mediums, you can even do that knocking back after that paint has dried a little, as long as you wet it again. You can see I can still move this around, I can still mix this, still creating shadow and shading and a variety of colours. So let's just wipe this back a little so that I can now have some greens. I think I'm going to go with my much loved peeled paint. I'll just dip that in the water and then get some paint on the go here. It's a lovely fresh spring green, but I might also add into the mix a bit of Mowed lawn. Little dip, build some paint, and now that the tip of that is wet, I might come in and just add a little bit directly to some of these leaves. Oh look, I've missed a purple one. That's a violet head. I expect I did that over here as well. Look, little tiny purple head. Let's put a little bit of green in here. And then I'm going to come back in and with the water brush add some of the peeled paint. Just allow it to mix on the image. So again, creating that easy blending of colour. Different amounts of each paint will give you slightly different colours of leaf each time, so that you're getting variety built in. For the stems, which are very fine, I'm barely touching the tip of the brush to the paper, so it's not letting the paint spread out, it's just touching in. If you feel nervous about that, by all means take a nice sharp coloured pencil, or you could even use a watercolour marker and just stroke down those stems. But again, I'm not terribly bothered if it's not perfect. I want that sort of sense of spring fertility, and maybe there's some greenery going on in the background as well. It's all a bit too Mowed lawn down here, a bit too sort of vivid green, so I'm just going to get some of that in. Oh, that didn't land on the sea, and I don't know if that was on camera. If you don't hit the paper towel with your pencil, it is going to leave paint everywhere. Fortunately, that was still on the mat, so that's really not such a problem. And let's come in maybe with a bit of greenery here. So you can see it doesn't have to be precise or perfect, but if you are somebody who likes precise and perfect, you can absolutely make it precise and perfect. This is the joy of having the stamps. You can go multiple times. You can do an artsy one where it's very, very messy. You can do a neat and tidy one, and you haven't got to do the drawing every time. That's done for you. I did it. It saves me doing the drawing every time. Believe me, the drawing can be stressful. The more you do it, the less stressful it is. But I still set out on a drawing not knowing quite where I'm going to end up. So the stamp gives me a guarantee that I'll have an image that's going to give me joy to colour or paint, or in other ways adapt. Going to come in with a bit more direct purple, just going to hit a couple of these petals to give some variation of colour. There, that's nice. And it's straightforwardly pretty, because spring is pretty. Why shouldn't there be a bit of beauty in our troubled world? Right, I've got this paint on the mat. You know what I'm going to do with it. Pick it up onto my spatter brush and just add a little bit of extra green spatter around those tags. Nice and simple. keeping things gentle and spring-like. Grand. I might give these a quick little blast with the heat gun, and then we'll have a play with these metallic paints and just see what they get us. Thought I'd just give them a little swatch before I start, so I've got a little idea of what's here. This is very, very cheap watercolour paper, so it won't be brilliant. Let's see, where's a halfway decent brush? Oh, this'll do. Just a little craft brush, just to see what we've got. So, as you saw, spritz of water, work that paint and let it move. That's actually a really pretty colour, isn't it? Not massively deeply pigmented, but I wouldn't expect that of a cheap watercolour. Let's put this one down. That I can see has got a good metallic sheen going on. I'm going to use a bit of water to just spread these out. See how far that pigment will spread. Yeah, as expected, not miles, but it's fine. It's a very cheap watercolour. So start with low expectations and you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. Let's spread that out and see how that gives us a sheen. This is not a watercolour brush. This is not really very good watercolour paper. So it's got a texture, but that's about all that can be said for it. Those two blues are really quite similar in colour. I guess this one is slightly greyer, which, as you know, I will love. When I've got them all down, I'll hold them up and we can have a look in the light and see what kind of a sheen it's got us. That's quite interesting. It's sort of almost a pumice stone platinum. If it's got a sheen to it, that'll be quite fun to play with. And this is a steely grey by the look of things. Ooh, I do quite like that. The neutrals have stolen my heart, despite the fact that it was the pretty purples and blues that caught my eye initially. So, while still wet, there's a little sort of hit of sheen. Yes, oh look, as it catches the light there. So I'm going to dry these and then we'll have a look at the overall sheen. Grand, so let's just give those a little, yeah, look at that. Wow. I seem to be, I don't know if it's about trying to create a little more light in a dark world, but I seem to be more drawn to metallics and shimmering than I used to be. Funnily enough, that one seems less shimmery than the others. I may just not have got the pigment going enough. But I'm wondering whether the one I want to apply here is going to be maybe this soft blue, because I think that's going to kind of pick up quite nicely with the purple underneath. So watercolours are generally fairly translucent, but if you've got a metallic pigment in there, it's going to be a little bit more opaque. But we should still keep most of the colour underneath, I think. Yeah. And it's just giving us the illusion of maybe sunlight hitting those petals. You know, the kind of thing I mean. Just that moment when you see the sun illuminate a flower petal. It almost seems to glow from within. So yeah, I'm adding a bit of that purple now as well. I don't think I'm going to go with greens on this. I think I'm going to let the leaves stay less shiny. There's something quite fun about that, I think. Just for once, you know. And what I might do is create a little bit of bluish spatter, because that's also going to give us an illusion of, you know, the sky above. That's quite full on, so you'll see in a moment I can knock that back very easily with just this piece of paper towel, so that it becomes more of a subliminal blue, less in your face, but it should also hopefully keep quite a nice shimmer of sunlight as it dries. Grand. That might almost be enough on these tags. I feel like I might want to give them a little edging of ink just to draw the eye inwards. So let's grab a blending tool, a little bit of walnut stained ink, and I'm just going to come around maybe just the lower edges. Actually, I might not go up into the sky. I might let the sky continue to open up into the universe, but I do quite like putting a little bit around that punched hole. I'm wondering about a couple of little labels for these, maybe just as simple as a couple of little word stickers. Having done that, I sort of do want to do that. Pay attention, your brain will tell you if it wants some more. And then the other thing, since this is here, is another way of watercolouring. I'm going to put some of that walnut stain just there and just add it to this little root bowl down at the bottom of the violets to give a little depth of colour down there. So you can absolutely, you don't have to have the watercolour pencils. You can do some watercolouring with your Distress ink pads. If you've got the sprays, put a little spray of paint onto here. All of these things can be put to use. Let's have a look at a couple of little labels. I've got my little box of stamped and tinted labels. They're quite nice because they've all got that blue that we were looking at the other day, and it'll give them a relationship as well to those bird ones that we did. There's a little bird there, he's rather cute. That's a Tim Holtz stamp. No, wrong colour brown is on it. What else have we got in here? Tickets, a few words. Oh look, imagine. That's off one of my stamp sets. Don't ask me which one. 3 words on each stamp set, and they're all spread out. If you really want to know, I can look it up for you. I think that word's a bit big and a bit clunky for what we've got going on here. Some greener labels down at the bottom. That's quite interesting. And some that were stamped just on already green card. I think that was the... There's something going on there for me. Those green labels as opposed to the turquoisey ones. Let's grab a couple more of those. So again, these are stamped with those Tim Holtz label stamps and tinted with, probably with PaperArtsy tints. Yes, I think so. Just picking out the greener versions. And as I say, these tickets were stamped on paper that was already green. I seem to have tinted it with something else. That's a bit too olivey. I don't mind it on the little round ones. That's one of mine, stamped and tinted. And that might be quite nice cut in half, mightn't it? So that we can have half on this tag, half on this tag. Is it mine or is that one of Tim's? I don't know. No, it is Tim's. Ephemera. I think we're both lovers of ephemera. Vintage ephemera takes people to their happy place, and who's to deny them that? There we go, like so. And then a little one of the similar up here. And these bits of ephemera are just picking up or reminding the brain of the ephemera in the background, in that background paper that we gessoed over. That's quite a nice little gathering of stuff. That's quite a nice little gathering of stuff. Switched in and out. It just getting the right tone, balanced tone between those can make quite a difference to what's going on. So I'll tuck that behind, that over the top. That's what we want. And then just a word sticker. I will find some word stickers and be back. Almost there. While I was on the hunt for word stickers, I came across the fabulous Tim Holtz Postmarked stamps, and I've added one of each of those. And then these are the small talk stickers, and I think that is what I want. I'm going to go with another little bit of inking just to soften the edges, help it sink in or fit in or meld in with the background. And although these are adhesive, I have found in the past that it's quite helpful to give them a little bit of extra help just to stay on for the longer run. I think that one's down there, this one up here. And then the other thing I've got out is my Bleedproof white ink and my dip pen, because I'm thinking I might add just a little bit of highlighting detail to these flower heads, and maybe a little doodled border. Still debating that one. So here's the ink. I'm going to get some onto the mat because I find it easiest. I need it slightly diluted. That's going to be a bit too diluted in order for it to flow fully from the dip pen. So if I were dipping into the ink, I just need to make sure I get the nib fully immersed. But as I am just doing little bits, I've found this is my most efficient way to get the ink where I want it. And I just want to add, that's a bit much, going to knock it back. Maybe some little highlights around the edge of individual petals. Maybe a little sense of light hitting these. Am I on camera? Let's hope so. Just around those edges, just to bring a bit of detail back to these little flowers and also to draw the eye to them, because I've put quite a lot of other interesting stuff in here now. Nice stickers and stamps and ephemera, and so it's just about bringing the eye back to what was the original point of these tags, which is these beautiful little violet flowers. And I think I do want to come around the edge with a little white border. Do I want to go over the edge of that? Yeah, I think I do want to include the ephemera. You can give the effect of going behind the ephemera, obviously, if you miss it out. But I think on this particular occasion, I want that ephemera included. You can absolutely do this with a white gel pen if you've got one that works consistently for you. I've come to the conclusion I rather like working with the dip pen because it just has a little touch of history about it for me, as well as just giving me a pen that fairly consistently I know is going to do what I want it to do. Let's get a bit more of this out. Hopefully I can get, with just the pen nib and the moisture that's on the table, enough to just complete this little doodled border. No, see, it does need a dip in the water. And with a bit of luck, we can get the flow. Again, if you want to just stay behind the flowers, you'll throw them into the foreground. But I'm sort of feeling like it's very clear this is a tag and a work of art, not a faux realist painting. So I'm going to go over the top of those. And with that that's left on the mat, you know what's going to happen. There's possibly not enough of it, and it's possibly too diluted now to stay fully white, but I think actually that's quite a nice effect. A soft white rather than a hard white spatter. Grand. I'm going to pop a little bit of twine in the tops of these and call that a wild violet day. Thanks so much for your company. As always, I will leave a list of the ingredients we've used in the description down below. I will link to, what did I say I was going to link to? I'll link to the label making video, and I will link to, the little bird collages, because that's where this leftover card came from. Again, this is going to be a little bit about playing with positioning. I quite like them with all the violets together in the middle, and I quite like them with the, oh look, you can reinstate that label. Quite a strong statement. In any case, twine, and thank you for your company, and happy crafting all.